friend June had, the major surgery, the chop.
She had SRS.
Yeah, she had SRS, and I travelled all the way down from Middlesbrough to London. For Willow, it was Swansea to London. We all came down just so we could be there for June in her surgery. After the surgery, I think as trans people, as a group as a whole, it's one of our proudest moments of, coming together and being there for one of our sisters, one of our best friends, to be like, girl, it's going to be fine. There's nothing to worry about. You're going to come out feeling exactly like yourself, but fully 100% yourself this time, not just, as you were feeling. And then she came out. The first thing she said was so June.
Yeah.
Like, we thought, she'll be out of it because of medication. She wasn't. As soon as she first came out, she said something, and we were just like, she's going to be fine.
That's so June.
She's going to be fine. We don't have to worry. And then me and Willow stayed down there for a few more days.
So
I was there for
just to
a month.
Answering the question, SRS is reassignment surgery.
Yes.
I think, just to clarify that for somebody that asked in the chat. So
it was a big defining moment for our friendship group, and I think if it wasn't, and as awful as it sounds, if it wasn't for Bailey going through what she went through back on that New Year's Eve, Bailey wouldn't have ever made it into this little group, because I was already friends with these girls, and I knew that my friends could really help her out with the sticky situation she was in. We're like, look, we'll take you in. And now there's 4 of us, and we are a trans community in our own, really. But it's at the core of everything. All trans people are really, really similar. We're all basically copies of the same people. Yes, some of us may be more autistic than others. Some of us may be more introverted than others. But we're all cardboard copies of the same people. We just look different.
And I think at the core of it, all what trans people want is to be loved.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, girl.
That's all that we want. Can we do a topic? Me and Willow were on FaceTime. We were trying to think of things that
I was supposed to message you all of these last night, but
she didn't, because she's lazy. Rude. Can we speak about dating as a trans woman, being in a relationship as well?
So this is effectively your platform for the period that you're with us. So yeah, absolutely. Speak about.
Let's talk about how pretty I am then.
Well, we already know that. We can.
Yeah, so me and Willow were just on FaceTime yesterday, and we were trying to come up with, topics that the everyday trans person, thinks about. So with me being, a single trans person in this day and age, dating is, effectively quite hard, because the men view, dating trans women as being GAY. And they don't want to have that stigma against them, and they don't want to, bring us into like a group of their lads friends, and for all them to judge that person. I just think that the stigma of dating trans women being GAY needs to just go. Because it's not. We're women at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what's in front of woman, trans, whatever. We are still women. Respect us as so. And if not, you're clearly not right for us. I mean, every single time I've been asked to go on a date, I've went, and they're all wanting one simple thing. And of course, I give them this.
I wonder what that could be.
Hair extension fittings.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
Makeup lessons, yeah. That's all that they're wanting. And then I sit there and I'm crying on the phone to Willow, being like, why can't anyone love me? I just want to be in a relationship. I mean, from, entering the group, like our little trans group, they've always known I've always wanted a boyfriend. That's the be all and end all. And that's all I want, really, is, like I said, is to be loved. I'm already loved, by my friends and family, but I want a total different type of love where I feel if I'm in the presence of someone, I don't feel like on edge or nervous or what have you. But Willow, what's life dating? What is life, being in a relationship with a trans woman?
To expand on what you said, I think that's the one thing that sort of makes me like really sad is seeing somebody who sorry. If it sounds like I'm fluffing, it's not, it's my chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got ideas. If I want to, I will. I mean, it's the one thing that makes me the most sad is seeing somebody I love so much unable to find that same love in somebody else. Yeah. And it's truly heartbreaking because, I mean, Bailey quite literally will throw herself at people just to find that connection, and she tries there's nothing more she could do. She pulls out all of the stops, bless her, and it's really hard for her. And I think where the sort of tables turn for me, what I've got is you quite literally a once in a lifetime thing that is very, very rare for trans people. I've been with my partner Ben now for 6 years, and yeah, it's just, there's nothing special. It's just a normal, loving, great, happy relationship. And there's not much else to say other than I've got a boyfriend like every other woman who's got a boyfriend. Like, yeah, we love each other. It's great. Like, it is what it is.
Just a couple of things I'll say to Bailey. Number one, you are just a baby. You're like a little screamy baby, and it sounds so cliche, and I know that Natasha said it in the comments, but the right person for you is out there. You've just not found them yet. The other thing I'd implore you not to do, and this comes from a place, obviously not from a trans place, but from just a place, is that maybe don't commit lots of toxic traits against yourself and your body in your journey to find that right person, because I've been there, I've done that, I've lived it. If I had the t-shirts, I'd be a millionaire. The stuff I allowed, how I allowed myself to be treated, because I was exactly like you. I was so desperate for love, and I was so desperate to be in a relationship. Do you know what I mean? I allowed myself to be treated abhorrently just because I thought if somebody wanted to sleep with me, that obviously meant they loved me, because nobody wants to sleep with you if they don't love you, do they? So, it does sound cliche and to a degree patronising, and I'm totally here for that. I'm a patronising bitch. But your person is out there, Bailey. It's clear for everybody to see what a beautiful person you are inside and out, and your time will come. But make them wait, because they've got to deserve you.
And no one deserves this.
Exactly.
You're disgusting.
So have you got any other topics you want to speak? Because I've noticed that there's been a lot of questions in the chat. Obviously, I can't keep up with the questions.
I don't mind moving to questions.
So
yeah, I don't mind either.
If you've got anything else you want to chat about, like I said, I'm here for you. So failing that, do you want me to open the boxes? Do you want me to let people jump up and ask their questions? Do you want them to come through the chat? How do you all want to...
I mean, I'm more happy to let them up in the boxes. I mean, if there is any rude people in the comments, we're not even going to pay the time of day. If you come up into the box and say a rude comment, we're not even going to react to it. You're just going to...
So I do just want to give a big kudos to my audience and my community, because I've got mods in, and I will say today, although I've not been keeping an entire eye on the chat, I haven't seen a single bad comment. And that's
neither. I've been keeping an eye on the chat, and I've not seen one bad comment. And I think for being in a live, we've never been in your live, So we don't know how your audience is going to, you know.
I have.
But I haven't. So I don't know how your audience and your people are going to, you know, react to me being on the screen. They've all been lovely.
No, and I've got to say, obviously, you know, when topics get out there, people get in the boxes. I never know who's going to come in a room. It's an open room.
No,
but I do, for the most part, know what my community is. I came on a bit early to preface the fact that this was all going to come from a point of respect and education. I didn't want bashing. I didn't want, you know, this. I didn't want that. And I just want to give a big thanks to my community for, you know, the fact that they've been so open, and I've not had anything. I didn't anticipate anything from my community, but, you know, this is what I wanted from this live to be. So we shall open the boxes. I know I've got mods in, so fastest finger first. And if you've got any questions that you maybe don't feel comfortable jumping up in the boxes and asking, if you want to ask in the chat, Ben.
Hi guys, 1 second, there's just someone at my door.
Oh, I hear a Northeast accent. I feel home. Oh, why is it so warm? It's supposed to be fucking January.
It is warm.
I'm going to do a quick...
Oh, is it your inhaler?
Yeah.
Oh,
asthma's terrible.
I was going to say my chest is heavy, but I'm like, hello.
You didn't need to tell me.
No shit, Sherlock.
Willow, do you need your inhaler?
No, I've got a hot coffee.
Afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Button.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, and thanks for letting me up into the boxes. Oh, sorry, Sammy, are you back? Do you want to go first?
Is that all right? Because I'm just
go
the
for
little
it.
one's tea.
Yeah, sure.
It's more like I'm kind of just thinking into the future, because I've got like 3 little ones, and I don't know yet, obviously, who they're genuinely going to be. So I just wanted to ask, from your standpoint, what advice would you give parents if, like, any of their kids kind of wanted to transition or didn't feel comfortable in their own body? What advice would you have as a parent?
I mean, from my parents' standpoint, that's another topic we're going to bring up. Bring it up, Willow.
All right, answer the question.
I have both my biological mum and my biological dad. Willow only has her biological mum and her stepdad. From viewing my parents accepting me, just, you know, put the effort in and try and comfort your child. If they do ever come out as GAY, lesbian, well, trans man, trans woman, you know, just be there for them and comfort them. It's the saying of, would you rather have a child or a...
Yeah, I get that. And I am like a very open-minded person. Like, whoever my kids turn out to be, whoever they want to be, I'm fully behind that. And I'm just kind of, that's good advice. Thank you.
And they are so lucky to have somebody as open and clearly caring as you are. So you're a credit to yourself in that means.
Oh, thank you. That's nice to see. I always think about like their future, and there's something
You know, I've got 3 kids as well, and as I think even the fact that you're asking that question means that you're doing right by your kids. So you give yourself credit that you're actually even thinking that far ahead, and that, you know, we can all hear what a loving parent you are to even ask that question.
I mean, what you need to realise is this generation, their parents are teaching the kids. Some of their parents are teaching the kids really wrong things, like racism and hatred towards any other culture except their own, and hatred towards any other religion. And what you're doing, because you're a very open book and you don't necessarily care, yes, you still have, you know, the standards in place to raise your child to be respectful and be a nice person. In the same breath, you're a very open book. You don't care about if they become, you know, a toaster or a fruit.
I'll just say, sorry, Bailey, I'll just say that Sweet Cheeks has made the most beautiful comment in the chat, which is, love unconditional, don't judge, and allow them to be themselves. And I just think,
lovely.
you know, that's absolutely perfect. And again, just to reiterate what Button said, Sammy, it just speaks volumes about what a beautifully accepting person you are and what a great mummy you are, that you're even jumping up and asking that question. So
no, it's just because I get so much anxiety about their future, because like the world is such a scary place at the minute, and it's not even just these things I think about. I think about like I don't think I can say the word online, but like different crimes and stuff that are on the rise at the minute. I think about all of that, and it's such a scary place. But I just think, you know, like we are in our own little bubble, and sort of whoever they want to be, they can fully be, and that's
Can I add something to that advice as a parent? Hi, everyone. My little boy's 34 this year. And we've always had open and honest conversations from the day dot.
Yeah.
I believe people have a right to be exactly who they want to be and who they were born to be. And one of the things we always have within communication is key in any relationship, isn't it? In whatever form, is we had our special box. So if there was something that, because it was just me and my son, his father wasn't around, if there was something he wanted to talk to me about, something he wasn't sure about how to ask the question, as much as I always encouraged, I don't care how you word it, just say it, we'll get around that part. The box was kind of like a little, we listen and don't judge, I guess. That we could write questions down for each other, and we can discuss topics just out of the box. So that was our Sunday afternoon thing. And
you know what? I might actually steal that, because
especially when he got to about 12, 13.
Yeah.
Because obviously I had to have the conversations about self-love, you know, maybe using your hand, self-love. And I was always really concerned about how I was going to have that conversation with my son. But actually,
my answer to that was, it's going to make your dinky go green and fall off. That was the answer to everything.
Oh, no, mine wasn't. Mine was, it's going to feel fantastic. That's why everyone's doing it.
Yeah, I very clearly remember two questions. What's gonorrhea, and what's a prostitute? And the answer to all of those questions was, they're going to make your dinky go green and fall off.
Mine was, in a packed cinema, what's a rug muncher?
Wow.
Oh, wow.
As I leant over and whispered in his ear, to then we were watching a film and it was mentioned.
That's such a great idea, Fufi.
It honestly worked really, really well. And it was nice for me as well, because I, like you, Sammy, was panicking that I was being a bit dramatic sometimes. I think, am I being too much? Am I making a worry out of something I shouldn't be worried about? So it was quite nice for both of us to have communications and talk about subjects that feel awkward but actually shouldn't be awkward. And that was actually the reason I wanted to pop up, was to say thank you to these beautiful ladies up here, and to the beautiful Natasha in the chat, who I know very well, for having these open, beautiful, honest conversations. I really do. I'm 57 this year. I've seen the stuff that happened in the past, and it was disgusting. And it absolutely breaks my heart that we're even having to have conversations and defending people. As far as I'm concerned, we are all sisters. We are all women. However we got to that place, I don't understand the amount of hate I'm seeing on social media, especially when actually social media could be this amazing platform to share the opposite, to be a place to educate people, to be a place to have these conversations. Not everyone has got someone they can talk to. Not everyone's got a parent they can perhaps open up to. You know, my first love was a girl when I was 17. I thought that was me forever. She was the love of my life. And then she wasn't. And then I had my son with someone who turned out to be the Ginger Lord Lucan. Those of you of a certain age will know who I mean.
Right, as a person who's not of a certain age.
He's a man who legged it. He disappeared. Nobody ever knew where he was.
Yeah, he just completely disappeared, Bailey. Nobody ever knew where he was.
And then I met my now partner, who's the first man I've ever lived with. I didn't meet him till I was 39. So, Bailey, your time will come. I just think it's nice that people are giving up their time to sit and be asked. And things are personal. And it is your life. And a lot of things I've seen about choices, and I don't think it is a choice. I think you're born how you're born.
And this is the thing.
You're a woman.
In a conversation, we're giving our time up. I think that's what this whole topic needs.
Yeah.
You need to give a certain amount of time up in your life to go towards a cause that you yourself are a part of and you think is very valuable. Me and Willow, we think the trans community is very valuable and, you know, a very part of our transition. So we're spending time, you know, in different people's boxes, trying to educate and try and make people not hate the community that we're in, just because.
And I appreciate it so much.
Yeah,
I hope to have grandchildren one day. So, you know, to me, it's that for future generations and the generations now to take away the negativity.
But the thing is, just to touch on some of the stuff you've been talking about, Fufi, it's like I actually do see social media, though, as a reflection of society. Though,
oh, absolutely.
And that as much as, you know, let's just say, I've got good in my heart, right, and I'm accepting of all people, etc. And I would want my children to be non-judgmental and all that stuff. And yes, let's keep talking about it. I also think that it's important for us to know who the devil is in the room.
Oh, absolutely.
And so when people are voted into power, when things like Wade versus Roe are overturned, right, I want to know who my enemy is. Like, I want to know who it is that doesn't want safety for me as a woman in the world, so I can be like so but Bailey and Willow, I really just want to acknowledge the fact, right, that, you know, because I feel like, I don't know, you tell me, right, but I feel there's an inquisitiveness to the trans community, and I just really respect and appreciate the fact that, like, you know, you're not fishing in a goldfish bowl, and we're here to observe and prod and ask questions. And so actually you being here and giving up your time and, you know, and opening up your souls. And I just feel these chats are so vulnerable most of the time that, like, please don't ever underestimate that actually when you're sharing that with people like myself, like I really do from my heart, massively respect you. I've got nothing but respect for the trans community.
Well said, Button. I totally agree.
And that as well, yeah.
I look at things that, as a woman, that are challenges every day: safety, how I go out, walks I take, you know, the routes and stuff. And then I look at you, who have got these other things, other hate you're dealing with. So as far as I'm concerned, I know how hard I find things. So I dread to think what you deal with on a daily.
And
I mean, that's most of the reason why I don't leave my house. The only times I leave my house is to go shopping with my nan. And I feel like if I'm out of the house, I have, you know, that secure. I'm not trying to say my nan is a bouncer. I'm not trying to say my nan is
But she is handy with a walking stick.
But she's like a sense of security for me.
Yeah.
So I can, you know, feel comfortable with going out. But if it's by myself, I don't leave the house, except if it's, you know, going shopping or going to the train station.
And, like, can we, like, it's already been touched on again by what Fufi said, right? I get away with being white passing, right? But on my paternal side there is black, and I also get away with passing as a heterosexual because I happen to be in a relationship with a man. So, like, all of this judgment needs to stop, because actually, aside from the relationship that I am in with my partner that is very loving, like, I actually love women. And and, you know, and I think that, you know, actually for some of us women as well, like, you know, I didn't ever really come out. Like, there wasn't this thing whereby, you know, one day I was heterosexual and the next day I was coming out as bisexual. It was just like, so I think as a whole, like within the LGBTQ community, right, and actually outside of it too, like, let's just stop with the assumptions and let's just stop with the judgment, because actually we don't know what we all like. We don't know our backgrounds. We don't know, you know.
Well, that's why I said my first love happened to be a woman. And I guess I was very lucky, is that the word? That my mum was very open and honest. And, considering she had a child in 1968 on her own. She was just 17. And so it was her and I, and she was just always, things that I then heard other children say growing up, I was really shocked. Like, why would you even notice that? Why would you say that about a person? I just didn't understand it. And so things that I'd learned from her, then having my son, it was really important that carried on that honesty.
Yeah.
And he's recently fallen out massively with 2 friends that he'd had for over 12 years because of a grapey comment made about a girl stood at the bar. He pulled his friends up, and I can't even tell you how proud of him I was when he told me. And actually, it then ended up being a conversation with the 8 of them sitting there who'd all known each other for years and years through different ways, and the 2 of the other lads being removed from the friendship group. And that's really important, because that's how it should be, because he feels very much that men should use their voices. It's not enough just to sit back and watch, is it? And that's how I feel with you women. It's not enough for me just to sit here and go, oh, it's not really my problem. They're all right. They're dealing with it. I'm your ally. I appreciate your time. I appreciate this is your daily life, and that people are speculating and making comments. And I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Sorry, can I just interrupt, Poopy? Raindrop, do you know you're in the box, my sweet?
Ew, I didn't want to interrupt anyone.
No, that's all right. Don't worry. I just wanted to check in, make sure that you weren't accidentally in the box.
No. I just wanted to jump in and say that I find things like conversations like this and lives like this really interesting, because I grew up in a very, very small village of houses of 22, and I went to a school with 31 pupils altogether.
Wow.
So I went to a really small school, and it was a very Yorkshire British type of school. I don't know how to word it. I'm autistic, so I'm not very good with words. Tell me off if you need to. So coming onto TikTok has opened my eyes with the variety of humans we have in this country, like people and stuff, because I don't see a lot of it. I still live in this village, and in this village, again, I'm very isolated from the world. So it's lovely to see who is around us in this world.
Yeah.
And what my little boy, he goes to a SEND school, and I am super proud of him because his best mate is black and goes to SEND school with him, and he gets a lot of comments in the local town because, again, the local town for many, many years was very Yorkshire, but now it's kind of getting bigger and wider. So we do have a variety of people, and he's more adapted to it than me, which is crazy because I'm 31. But
Raindrops children are always far more accepting and B, resilient than we give them so much credit for.
yeah, he's incredible. Like the school he goes to, he has children of all different ethnicities, if that's the right word. Yeah. There is children that are potentially going through the trans or the question, trying to understand who they are because it's a SEND school. And I absolutely love how understanding he is of people. He tells people off for being sexist. He's only 11.
Brilliant.
He tells people off for swearing. He is like the most, I don't know how to explain it, but he sets a good example on me.
He sounds like a beautiful young man.
He is when he's level-headed.
Oh, yeah.
But,
You know what? I can really relate to what you're saying about your son because my son's autistic, and if he sees something wrong, like racism or anything like that, he calls it out or he reports it on YouTube and stuff like that. So I understand where you're coming from because SEND kids are so like switched on with that type of stuff, especially if they grew up in a house where their parents are teaching them right.
yeah, see, I grew up
Sometimes
in a very...
a greater empath, isn't there? They see things that others maybe don't.
Yeah. See, I'm SEND myself, but I was a late diagnosis. But I grew up in a very polar opposite upbringing to what I have. My dad was a vile, nasty man. He didn't really accept anyone that was different. So it was kind of interesting to see how my little boy's growing up to my upbringing. It's really opened my eyes, and it's helping me as a new neurodivergent person to see all these, like, how do you say it? I don't want to word it wrong, I'm trying not to. Like, all these new people, I don't know if that's the right way of saying it.
I know what you mean.
I'm really scared because I don't like upsetting people, and sometimes I say the wrong thing.
You're fine. I mean, with us two in the boxes, you're not going to offend me and her.
No, I get that, but, you know, you go through a lot. You think, oh my God, I need to tell someone, or I need to accept who I am. That must be so scary, because it's huge, and big up you lot for doing it. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you, Rachel.
That's really nice.
Can you just put a pin in your question at the moment?
Yes.
I think that's a super valid question.
I don't know if I can pin when it's boxes.
Yeah, I don't mean actual pin. I just pin. Sorry, don't worry.
My
love, did you have something you wanted to add to the conversation?
I did, but Button's question was really good, and then I'll go second. She got there before me in the comments, but I do have some questions.
So Bailey, Willow, and also anyone in the comments. I have heard a lot recently about whether the trans community wants allies or not. So my question that I wrote in the comments was: does the trans community? Hold on a second. Let me scroll up. Does the trans community? Oh, I can just say it. I was the one that wrote the question. I don't know why I'm looking for my own. I'm looking for my own question. I've heard some trans people say we don't need allies. We don't need other people to speak up. If something's happening, like, we've got it, don't get involved. But then my understanding of allyship is that in the moment, whether it's in my front room and it's my 80-year-old grandmother saying it, or whether I'm at a football match, that if someone says something racist, homophobic, etc., that I would if I felt safe enough, honestly, I would bring that up. I would want to be an ally, but I just wondered what your thoughts were on allyship.
Well, I mean, we can't really speak on a full community, but, like, with me, and I think with Willow, we need allies in life, period. We need allies in this community, because it's one thing us speaking about it and speaking up about the hatred towards trans women, but then when it's you people and a mass majority of people who aren't trans speaking up about, you know, the hatred towards trans women and trans men, I think then it's more likely to get heard by other people, and then they can listen to, you know, talks like this and then understand them not to be disgusting and have hatred. So yeah, we do need allies.
Yeah. And I think if a trans person hasn't got a voice in that moment because they're not present, then it's better somebody else saying something than a trans person and waiting for them to turn up, if you know what I mean. Because there's not always going to be a trans person present, and it's better for an ally to say something, you know, with the good intentions of their heart, whether it be correct in that moment or incorrect in that moment. At least what they've thought they're doing is good, because it's from with respect and love for the trans community.
So I think for me, as what I consider myself to be an ally, I think for me, allyship works in two ways. Number one, offline, it works in those moments that Button says. If I'm in a space where I feel safe enough to speak out, I will do so. I think that operates differently to a degree online. I think, obviously, I'm going to sound completely conceited and biased here, but I think allyship works to a degree in a different way online, because I think if you're a creator and you have any degree of platform, allyship isn't you speaking for the community. Allyship is you amplifying and empowering those voices and raising those voices up of the people from that community. So I could sit here and talk about trans issues till the cows come home, but what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. That's why I had you two on, because to raise your voices up and amplify your voices is, to me, what genuine maybe a more sincere form of allyship is, rather than, you know, speaking on your behalf to a degree it was performative. And that's just my opinion. So
I'd look at it how I'd speak for a friend. If a friend wasn't in the room, I'd jump up and defend you.
Yeah.
And equally, if someone wasn't in the room and things were being said wrong, I'd put it up. I'd never dream of speaking for anyone, but I will always speak out and support if I think something's wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
It's my worst downfall.
Sorry, that goes for any community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
I perceive allyship is.
And I think, in a way, that's what this country is kind of lacking in some ways at the minute. We are lacking, like, supporting each other and being able to stand up and kind of back each other.
It's what the world is lacking, isn't it, unfortunately?
It is, the world's lacking empathy. I think
Empathy,
a lot
absolutely.
of people have got no empathy and no understanding. One of my questions was, I think someone said something earlier about it, but being GAY or trans, some people out there think that that's a choice. And I don't quite understand how those people have that mentality, because it's like, okay, well, is it your choice that you're straight then? How is it not just who you are as a person, genuinely? That's just something I can't wrap my head around, the way people think like that.
Yeah. Devon, did you want to wade in?
Yeah. So I have a question that I know that you can't speak for the whole trans community, and I'm just kind of getting a general, I ask it often to try and get a general view on it. Does the term trans woman, do you find it offensive? No. Or would you just rather be called a woman?
I think for me, I prefer them to be used with context, if you know what I mean. So I am a woman, but I am a trans woman. Socially, through my everyday life, I am a woman, and in my circles, I am a trans woman. So I like to advocate myself as a trans person, but I am still just a woman. I can be both, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
But then we don't find it offensive in known as trans women. I mean, if you look in our bio, well, in my bio it says transgender. I'm very happy, you know, I'm very vocal about me being trans on and off the app. Like, it's no issue for me. If you want to, you know, label me as a trans woman, I'm more than happy. I'm very proud of my journey. I'm very proud to be a trans woman. It took me a lot to actually come out and, you know, socially and medically transition myself. So then, if, you know, I would just say, I'm a woman, there's no need for the trans part, like, I don't care for it, then that's just me shitting on my own community, and I wouldn't do that. I like being part of a community where, you know, we're known as something different, because that's what we are. We are different. I'm very different. Willow is very different.
But it's case by case. I know lots of trans women, you know, once they've reached sort of a certain point in their transition, they tend to remove that from themselves. So they are then just women, and that's completely fine. That is, it's very common within the trans community to once you feel you finish your transition to then just want to be referred to as, you know, a woman, and that's completely fine. I think for me, being this is just me being honest, I am a visibly trans person, and there are things that I do where I choose to be more visible as a trans person, where, you know, I may choose to be that one person in the room that will stand out the most, and that's really common with trans girls. We choose visually to look like trans women, and I think, you know, for us personally, speaking on Bailey's behalf, I mean, we've been friends for 9 years. We are very much integrated and such a huge part of the community.
So I think Sebastian in the comments made a really valid point in saying that in terms of advocacy, medical and online, they are a trans man, but in their daily life, they're just a guy. Yeah. And I think that harks back. We had a conversation on here the other day about people not wanting to be identified as cis women. You know, there's this huge, great big movement about being identified as cis women. Now, it makes no odds to me. It's just a descriptor, but I know that it's quite a hot topic, if you like. But I think that it's important to identify that sometimes these labels are just in terms of your online presence and your advocacy. And like, it happened earlier when I mentioned trans women and cis women, and somebody in the comments was like, no, it's just women. And I'm like, but it's just for the purposes of advocacy. And
there's a context, isn't there, at times that it has to be used.
Yeah, I find it really weird. Like, again, from where I'm from and my upbringing, I find it really odd hearing the term cis, because I've never ever heard it before. And as an autistic person, it's like, whoa, where's this word come from?
I've never heard it till recently.
So the reason that it's being used, that it's only a scientific term, and the reason that it's being used is, okay, it's mainly why I asked that question, is because the way I see it personally is, and I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't being disrespectful, I think that there's nothing wrong with, there has to be a way of separating women and trans women, and I don't mean this in a way of disrespect. I mean it in a sense of, I think that's when the arguments start, because I think that some women feel like, it's weird, I feel like some women feel disrespected.
Yeah, can I add something to Stephanie, and you tell me if it's kind of along the same lines, please, if that's okay with you?
Yeah, you're better than me at this. Go on.
No, you're very eloquent. So I retrained as a birth worker. I'm a doula, and what we've seen in the birth world is, I knew myself, not being a heterosexual person, that I wanted to be safe in the birthing community, that I've got plenty of friends that have either gone on that journey on their own, they've experienced loss before, and I wanted to be safe, that if I had any type of couple or single person approach me, that I could assist them. And what I have found in hospitals is that with some heterosexual couples, because the language of hospital forms has changed, that they're, to me, I don't understand the outrage, because actually we're adding vocabulary to things, we're not taking away. So when someone says, so for instance, I'm a doula that represents women and birthing people, I can help you with breastfeeding and chest feeding, right? So we're adding words to the vocabulary, and I think sometimes, because people just feel as though the word cis has turned up, it's like we're trying to name women, and I that would be me too in that category. But actually, for the purposes of specific conversations, or because you're in a medical setting, or like sometimes it is about distinguishing between this is a cis woman and this is a trans woman, for those purposes. So I would just ask people to really consider, no, not at all, just really consider that actually when you do feel angry about that, it's actually, can you think about it in a different way and think that actually we're adding conversation to be more, we're adding words to include more people, we're not taking away from women.
Do you think, Button, sometimes people are just having this outrage for the sake of outrage, or that's something else I'm going to jump on and be outraged by?
No, I
absolutely, Fifi.
It seems to be a more common thing these days, though, especially after lockdown. I've noticed, like, people have gone the polar opposite, and like everyone's finding some kind of outrage, whether it be a small word like the word cis, to, I don't know, someone blinking. It is some form of outrage no matter where you go or what you do, I feel, these days. And
let's just be honest, I'm just going to take the opportunity to do an absolutely pointless poll, which does nothing but pick up the popularity, because we'll have all those beggy ways around here. Just in terms of real life versus online life or advocacy, how often are you exposed to the word cis in your real life? So if you are, do smiley face for yes, sad face for no, because this goes off the back of something Natasha just said in the comments. So smiley face, yes, you hear cis all the time in your everyday life. Sad face, no, you don't. if I'm in a room with friends, if we were out together, girls, and I'm in a room with you and somebody comes over and says, who's this? I'm not going to go, well, this is my trans friend Bailey, this is my trans friend Willow, this is my cis friend Button, this is my cis friend Foofy. Do you know what I mean? You're just not going to do that. So I think sometimes it only comes up in the context of discussing these things in terms of advocacy, and I don't understand why people get so het up about it, but also I see that there is a growing movement of people who are looking at it as a term of trying to eradicate their womanhood in some way, when it's not.
Is that the prove me wrong gang?
It's
No,
like,
yeah. See, I tell you what, I do understand why. Okay, I asked a friend, you know, when you make an assumption about a friend, right? It was a really good friend of mine, and I said something to her about this, like, oh, I'm really pleased that the forms have changed at Brighton's hospital, and that, you know, we're saying things like chest feeding. And she was like, oh, I completely disagree with it. And we got into this conversation. I was like, oh, why do you disagree with it? And actually, what I would say, without speaking for all women, right, is that a lot of the time, when we have, I'm going to take it to politics, right? Politics divides us on who to fear. And I think a lot of the time, women are scared of men. And what our politicians and people in power tell us is that, like, because it's a trans woman, and because we don't know, because there's like this shrouded in secrecy, right? We should be scared. Then, so I think it's driven by fear, and it's driven by not knowing. And you know, that's where I think. And my friend said that, she was like, it's the. I think she had bought into the assumption that the places where she went were not going to be safe because she didn't know who was sharing those spaces with.
And I would also say off the back of that Button, that I feel like we need to remember what the agenda is of the people that are setting these.
And that are carrying it forward,
this guideline, these targets. You know, we will find in most walks of life, in most different communities, whenever this instruction is given, you know, well, we need to refer to people as cis and trans. It's given because it's trying to push a narrative, and it's trying to divide, and it's trying to cause fear. You know, the same as when people say, I don't know, let's just go to the other extreme here, and I'm not trying to turn it off, but let's just say, you know, Christmas time. Well, we're not going to disrespect, you know, the Muslim community by having Christmas carols. We're going to, you know, we're just going to call it it's the festive season now. It's not coming from this community. It's coming from people that are doing it for the purposes of causing division.
Yeah, for a divide, definitely. I totally agree.
You're hearing it from the mouth of a trans person, from the mouth of a black person, maybe let's not put too much credence in the agenda that these people are trying to push.
I think people in power love division.
Yeah, absolutely.
They want to divide everyone. It's like they want to divide rich and poor. Like the rich don't have to pay, you know, a lot of tax, but the poor do. It's like, stop trying to divide people.
Yeah.
It's the art of distraction, Bailey.
Can I just say,
smoke and mirrors, isn't it?
If you look at all of this stuff, all of this really pathetic, ridiculous stuff, exactly, Sebastian, nobody's looking at the issues up here that, and I don't want to turn this into a political debate, but nobody's looking up here at the actual issues. Do you know what I mean? They're looking at all this stuff that is being pushed and fueled by mainstream media. And again, that's why I implore anybody that has a platform, you know, to open up your platform to amplify the voices of people from the community, whether that's the trans community, the black community, you know, whatever it is. It's only through raising these voices up that we're going to educate more and help close the division, I think. But Jake, did you want to add something while I just try and disguise the fact that I'm trying to burp on camera?
Yeah, sorry. Hello, Bailey and Willow. Thank you for sharing information. That's really useful. Not useful, but you know what I mean. I just wanted to say that the cis and trans thing, I think it's the same as heterosexual and homosexual. It's just to describe different types of a person, basically.
Yeah.
But I did have a question, if that's okay. And if it's like off subject or you don't want to answer, that's fine. But I just wanted to talk about other people, like saying if somebody doesn't or does identify it as, so like if I was to say I'm gay, no you're not, or I'm trans, no you're not, do you kind of struggle with seeing other people telling other people what they are or what they aren't? Because I just find it very hypocritical.
In our lives, we do get a lot of people saying, you're not actually trans, you're just doing it for a joke.
Yeah.
You're only doing this for the clout on TikTok, you've only done it to come on TikTok. I've been out as trans for 9 years, Willow's been out as trans for 10, TikTok's only been around for 5. So if you do the math...
You're really good at preparation, aren't you?
You know, it doesn't necessarily make sense. So yeah, we ourselves do get people in our lives coming on and saying like, you're not trans.
And I think I know I can hold my hands up to this, and I can hold Bailey's up for her, because unfortunately we are a really terrible duo everywhere we go. And I know we've had circumstances where, you know, we've heard something from another creator, or we've you know, somebody's put something in the comments below, and where we've been in a position then where we have possibly questioned somebody else's identity, and I'm completely guilty of that, and I will completely hold my hands up, because I know I am the first person to question something. I'm like, okay, well, if this has happened, then that, you know, that if it doesn't add up in my head, I'm the first person to go, okay. And it's usually
I'm the second person after Willow to be like, okay, maybe.
I think it's anything you got instinct, don't you?
I think what it is me is I just struggle when people from the same community or just tell someone that they're not what they are because they don't meet the certain standards. And I get some people think you have to have bottom surgery or whatever to be a woman or a man, which obviously not true. But I just don't like it when people tell people what they identify as and that they're not this person or not that person. And I just kind of struggle with it because then it sends the wrong message out. I think obviously I'm not for trans community, but I just feel like it sends the wrong message out to people that aren't of that community, and then they can go and spread hate because they think, oh, that person's trans, and they're saying obviously I'm not, like, if people have back and forth, and fair enough, if it's constant, like every single live or every single thing, this person's not that, then I just find it quite damaging.
Yeah.
That's what frustrates me about this app, is how you kind of put so many people into a category that must be the same because they all, you know, they're all trans, or they're all gay, or they're all autistic, and there's one of them being really bad, and oh well, they all must be.
All women should behave in the same way, and all men should behave in the same way. It doesn't happen, does it?
No. When I first joined this app,
exactly,
I came across a trans lady who was transitioning from man. Now, they turned out to be a really bad person. I'm not going to go into it. Some people might know, some people don't.
Yeah.
It turned out they were using transitioning to hide who they really were. Yeah. And I got sucked into that, thinking they were like a friend and everything. Now, I wouldn't look at other trans people on this app and be like, oh, well, I'm going to judge you because that's just morally wrong, in my opinion. Like, we should all just accept that we're all individuals, and yeah, that person's wrong, but it doesn't mean that person is over there.
I think it's already had its ricochet effect because people are going into Bailey and Willow's lives and saying you're not trans. So that's what I mean about it. It's very damaging, and I hate seeing it.
Yeah, sorry, Jake. What that will do is that will fuel people then to use that one person as the example of everybody in the trans community. Yeah. And that's why I say we need to remember, whatever conversations we're having, whatever community that they're including, that no one person, no two people speak for an entire community. I could have another 2 trans people on tomorrow that would feel, very different from how Hayley and Willow feel. But we only learn through understanding other people's experiences. And something that is very difficult on Drama Talk, which I know that trans Drama Talk is very different from, mainline Drama Talk, and that these circles exist everywhere. But something that's very important is that we need to listen to understand rather than listening to react.
Yes.
Sometimes that gets very difficult when you're moving in drama circles, because that's not the narrative, and that's not what is pushed and fueled by that niche of TikTok. It is fueled by drama. So that's why it then becomes difficult to separate the issue from the person. And that's why I think conversations like this are important and they're healthy to have. So
they need to listen with open ears and a closed mouth, don't they? And some people, unfortunately, can only communicate in combat. They think everything's an attack, so they're almost waiting to attack back, aren't they?
Also, I say this
I'm going to jump down before one of the cats eat me. I need to feed them.
No worries. Thanks so much.
It's lovely to chat to you all. I'll stay in the chat though. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
I say this with the utmost respect as well. Like, the reason that I tend to always
Thanks, Jake.
trust people when transitioning is nobody chooses to be part of a marginalized community.
Yeah.
Like, it takes a special kind of human being to pretend to be trans. Nobody wants to put themselves, like, it's not a choice, it's something that you are. It's like nobody goes, hey, for a bit of clout, I'm gonna be this or I'm gonna be that. That's why I tend to kind of believe, I find it difficult to believe that people aren't.
Yeah, so Devon, I
don't know if that's me being naive.
No, it's
I'm
not.
just going to go on mute. I just need to call my mum. Hold on.
No worries, Bailey. I had a really similar conversation with my dad, ironically, when Kelly Maloney, the boxing promoter, came out as trans, you know, saying, well, he's just doing it to get, you know, in the papers and to get coverage and that kind of stuff. And I said, look, Dad, the simple thing is this, right? Do you think that the only thing they could do in their life is put themselves through that level of ridicule, that level of scrutiny, that level of public contempt for a bit of clout or a bit of media coverage? Do you know what I mean? There's plenty of other things they could do other than that. So that should tell you all you need to know about how genuine their journey is. Yeah. Maria, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I did, if that's okay. And I've been trying to work out how to word this. So I'm just going to say it because you know what I'm like, Jelly. So for Willow and Bailey, I know Bailey's on the phone at the moment, my niece has just come out. She's 18. She's just said that she wants to transition into male and change her name and everything. Now, my question is, because at first we was a bit shocked because she's always been quite a girly girl up until about a couple of years ago, and she's dead set on it. She's not like, you know, like people say, oh, we might be, you know, they might, I don't know, be a phase or whatever when they're like 15. She's still saying it, yeah? So that's fine. But my question is, and this is going to sound really off, but how do I explain that to my autistic 11-year-old who's been used to having a cousin me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It didn't come out wrong, but
no, I get you.
Because he's autistic, and even though he's 11, he's about 6 or 7 in himself. He's likely to just blurt something out really wrong one day.
Yeah.
And yeah,
for me, my brother was about 7 when I transitioned. Hang on, 7, 6, 4. No, he would have been about 6.
Yeah,
again, 6 or 7. So I think it was, for me to have a conversation with him, it was super, super easy because I mean, he's 11, so he's still a young boy. So
yeah, he's still quite young.
Easy to have them conversations, and usually children take it the easiest because the moment they see something different, they're like, oh, okay, this is different. I'm not used to this. So it's I would recommend that, you know, you just really quickly like gloss over it and say, look, this is something that's going to be happening. You know, this is something you're going to see that's going to be different.
Yeah.
And then, you know, once changes start happening and then your little boy notices these changes happening, again, introduce the conversation, say, hey, look, you know, are you feeling okay about this? Do I need to explain anything to you? How would you like me to, you know, how would you like me to introduce this to you? And again, exactly the same conversation. Say, look, you know, we've said that things are going to change. This is what's going to happen now. And within you know, a short amount of time, things should start getting much, much easier. I mean, I hope. I can't necessarily, you know.
Yeah, so you recommend just basically being very straight with him and saying, look.
Yeah. Get the easiest with that.
Yeah.
And I would also say, Maria, sorry, Raindrops, you know, give him the scope to ask some questions as well. He's a kid, he's going to have questions.
Well, he's going to have 1,000,001 questions.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be
I'm
able to
really
answer.
sure, as a child, not all of them are going to be entirely appropriate.
Yeah.
But not only that, did you say it was your niece?
Yeah, it's my niece.
Your niece is going to know your son, and she's going to know, his tisms, and she's going to know that his questions aren't coming from a place of malice. They're coming from a place of being a child and being inquisitive. But I do, we said it earlier on, I do give kudos to the fact that children are far more resilient than we give them credit for. They might find it strange for a little bit, but they'll quickly just learn and adapt, and then it will be like it was never a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll probably have more questions from my 19-year-old than my 11-year-old, to be fair.
I think that segues into something that there's a lot of rage. There's a lot of rage by parents about what's getting taught in schools lately. And there's a lot of a false narrative going around of they're trying to change our kids, they're coming for our kids.
Yeah.
And nobody's actually asking the children what they're learning. And they're simply learning tolerance. And they're doing that because of the question that you just asked, Maria.
Yeah.
Because if at a young age people are taught in school, this is a possibility of the world, you don't have to explain that to them because they're learning in school. And that's why I think all these parents that are sending out false narratives about, drag queens reading in their schools and they shouldn't be exposed to this at such a young age. They should, because they know that it's a possibility. They're literally teaching tolerance. They're not trying to transform your kids.
And I tell you also what they're teaching about consent, which I was never, I don't know about anyone else here, I was born in the 80s, went to school in the 90s. I would have liked to have known what my female genitalia was called, And it's funny, isn't it? Like, there's not a man that I've ever come across that's got his parts of his body the wrong name. And yet it took me until I was pregnant to know the difference between A, V, the two V's, if that makes sense. Because we're not taught about it. And so actually I've got a soon to be 6-year-old, and I'm over the moon that I've got a newsletter from the teacher saying they've got Pantosaurus, which is a thing on YouTube. So anyone with a child under the age of 11, if you just go on YouTube and look it up, it talks about, in a cartoon way, about consent. I want my child to be able to say, what their anatomy is, and to have conversations with me that start from a very young age about things that are tricky or difficult. Like, I always want to be the person that my child turns to. I don't want to be the one that my child fears.
And do you know what, Button, I think as well, it does steer a little bit back to what the generational thing was. Do you know what I mean? I think it's only through acceptance and learning that we understand how important these conversations are and how important that the right terminology is. When I was in school, am I 47 now? It was your cookie. Do you know what I mean? You used to call it your cookie. Well, that's great, but I go home and say to my dad, "Oh, Dad, this boy at school today touched my cookie." My dad goes up to school and beats the other kid's dad up because his kids inappropriately touched my cookie. And I literally mean he's had my cookie off my dinner plate. Do you know what I mean? That's why teaching the correct terminology is so important, no matter what the age is.
Yeah, I don't like you. It sounds really odd, this. I don't know why it is. I use the correct terminology, obviously, because I've got a little boy. And with him being autistic, he's you're not looking at my body, especially, even if you're a doctor, I'm not getting anything out for you. So I've had to teach him to use the correct words, whereas it feels really uncomfortable to me to use the words, especially when it's a boy. Yeah. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because it's the opposite sex or what, but it's like, I feel really awkward, artistically awkward.
I think raindrops is because a lot of times we have to remember that the older we get, the more sexualised everything is.
Yes,
and that's why learning early is so important, and the technology is so important, because A, it helps us become comfortable with it, but B, it's also helpful for learning. And it helps us not become uncomfortable with it, because we know that it is okay to use those terms.
Yeah. Can I just have a little input for Maria? Because I've got a little boy that's 11. That's autistic with a developmental age of 6 to 7 as well.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know if your little boy goes to a SEND school, does he?
Yeah, he does.
I use that as kind of an example because obviously people with disabilities, majority of them are born with it. Some of them develop it when they're a little bit older.
Yeah.
And like, for instance, I'm not lucky, but kind of lucky that my little boy's dad's also in a wheelchair. So we have a very diverse family, and I kind of used his school setting and the people that are around him to explain how people are different and how some people don't realise who they are or what they are until they're a little bit older. Like, for instance, the way you dress, the way you look. It's the same, I'm assuming you two can correct me, with trans women and men. Like, you choose the way you look and dress, and sometimes that changes as you get older because you think, oh, well, actually, I want to be a woman now, and that changes.
Yeah.
And you could maybe use that in the way of how your little boy is interested in one thing, and then he's interested in another, but he never loses that interest. It's there for life.
That's a really good way of explaining it, actually, because everyone is completely different. I mean, he's got children at his school that are, because of physical and mental disabilities, if that makes sense there.
Yeah.
He's got people in wheelchairs. He's also got people with trachees as well, like tracheotomies. He's got, obviously, autistic children. There's a whole diverse range of children there, Down syndrome.
It makes your little boy more adaptable as well in school, because a lot of autistic people also come out as either trans, gay, bisexual, etc. It can be quite high in the autistic spectrum as well.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm quite a bit of a geek in the autistic world because I hyper-focus on it. So, like, I've taught my little boy all this because he might have a friend that suddenly comes out gay in the future, or, you know, might have a class person that turns out to be who they are. And I've kind of taught in these ways, and it's helped because he accepts everyone in the world now, and he can stand up and happily say, leave them alone, or that's the wrong thing to say. And it really helps them, especially when they're autistic, to have a little voice as well, because they understand it.
I'll definitely use that one, yeah, definitely, to sort of explain. Because, as I say, when I'm going to say he, because that's what he wants to transition to. When he first came out 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago, I was just like, he was 15, and everyone was like, you know, is it a phase? Is it not a phase? No one really knew. But now he's 18, still saying the same thing. It's like, well, now he's old enough to make his own decisions. Yeah. Change his name by default. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's amazing.
So
yeah, it's not a 5-minute thing. He's obviously certain about the journey that he wants to take. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do at this point, I'm just going to raindrop to Maria.
Yeah, I'm going to drop because I need to go to hairdressers anyway.
No worries, darling. Thank you so much for joining. Good luck. Thanks, Maria.
Yeah, bye.
Just to take the time to wind up, girls, and say thank you so much for joining. Is there anything that you want to add at this stage?
Gorgeous woman.
That and Raindrops is completely correct. There is such a massive correlation between neurodivergency and the LGBT umbrella, specifically identity. Such a huge correlation. So yeah, I think if anybody is watching that, you know, has children who are who are neurodivergent, then, you know, if it isn't a conversation you've had already, then it might be a good idea to have it now, especially if they are surrounded by other neurodivergent children.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say in summary, Bailey? Other than you're gorgeous, because obviously we all know that, so.
No, I think this live has been very, very positive.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Ray! Go you!
I think this live has been very, very positive, and I think that's what is needed to be happening for quite a while, because the last live it started on a positive and then it ended up on a negative, speaking about certain people. With this live, because we haven't spoke about certain people and we haven't spoke about, you know, things that necessarily shouldn't be spoke about by other trans people. And we've spoken about, you know, topics that, you know, set in stone of our journey and other people's journey. I think, yeah, it's been a very productive, positive live. I've quite enjoyed coming up into the box and, you know, talking about my journey. And I think
it's all about you, that's why.
Yeah, it's all about me, obviously. No, I think Willow's done the...
Can I just say, Ben, I can't take a chance that you won't. Don't worry, when the girls have gone, I'll let you up, and I'm sure that they can watch everything you got to say. I've no doubt it will be thoroughly disgusting as well. But, yeah, if you get Spud 24/7 rants in your inbox, Bailey, he's married, ignore him, he's a creeper. Don't ask what he can do with 20p's and don't ask what he can do with a Cadbury's cream egg because you don't want to know. Thank you.
No, I want to know now that you said it.
Trust me. No, you don't. But I just want to ask, I'm just going to do a quick pointless poll because we know we're begging around these ways. If you feel like you've learned something new, you have a better understanding, we put a smiley face. If you feel like it was a completely pointless life, put a sad face. I will block you just so you don't know.
Yeah. If you put a sad face, I'll find out where your mother lives and I'll have a cuppa in your living room and wait for you to come in from work.
With the bat in your hand. I'm just waiting for the one sad face.
Yeah, so I absolutely love that. And that's like I said to you at the outset, Willow, do you know what I mean? I don't, in terms of numbers, I don't have a huge room, but I do have what I consider to be, for the most part, a sensible community.
Oh, yeah.
There's
that was nice.
Sessions going on. And... yeah, it was Ben.
One sad face off, Spud.
It was Ben, don't worry. Thank you, AJ. Yeah, and I'm just, you know, like I said from the outset, even if, you know, 5 people went away and they've learned something new or they've got a better understanding, then for me it's been worthwhile time, you know. So just the fact that people have said that gives me a bit of the warm and fuzzies. So
positive, because you can't make people learn, unfortunately.
No, and you can't educate ignorant and you can't educate stupid.
No, you're right.
You know, I like to know that whatever energy I put in, it is, you know, it is rewarding for something. And the fact that it has been is absolutely nothing down to me. It's entirely down to you two amazing pieces of gorgeousness.
But then, in the same breath, it's also time for you for allowing us to come up on this platform and have conversations about it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
No, thank you.
No, thank
you.
No, thank you.
Oh.
Anyway, before I get bananaed, yeah, I'll send you some, Bailey, don't worry.
Please do.
Before I get bananaed, no, Ben, they don't want to go live with you. Stop asking and leave them alone, please.
I need to jump off anyway because I need to call the solicitor.
Okay. Love you, Bailey. Thank you so much. Thank you, Willow. Bye again. Thank you so much, my darlings.
Bye.
Thank you for being so amazing. Let me just turn my big head little now. Well, wasn't that a lovely live, people? Obviously, I'm exceptionally, biased, obviously. But wasn't that a lovely live? And thank you so much to everybody that's in here for being open to learning something new, to being open to being understanding. Thanks, Sebastian. It was lovely. So I've got the warm and fuzzies. Maybe it's because I need a wee. I don't know. But thank you, AJ. I appreciate that. So do you want to jump up now, Ben, and undo all of the good work?